Robots Radio presents...
Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search. Focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on January 8th, 2021, over on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the Deep Stone Crypt Raid. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the highly caffeinated green-eyed music lover.
That explains so much.
It really does.
Hey.
No,
I've been up since 5.
That honestly does actually explain.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah. Hi, this is Resident Otter Mom. Hey, it's Orchid.
Chat is demanding that Orchid answer the question of House Flipper lore when?
Tomorrow,
Tuesday.
actually. Yeah, we'll do tomorrow. Saturday.
Okay. Saturday. Got it. There you go. For anyone who's sorry that you missed the live House Flipper lore stream from Orchid.
Yeah.
Lore explanation for green mechanics. Caffeine.
Yep.
So yeah, we survived 2020. Now we have to deal with how it won, because, 2021.
Prestige level 2020.
Oh, that's terrifying. Did you see someone sent me a meme of Phoenix's Joker on a stairwell with Pennywise. It's like,
oh, God.
2020 showing 2021 the workspace. It's like, Chat's mad at me for the joke. So anyways, we're gonna start off as disjointed as we normally start off, and Orchid's gonna shill some stuff for us. Orchid's got a few special announcements for us, I think is the way I'm supposed to say, right? I do have a
few special announcements. I would love you guys to visit us on the lorenetwork.com alongside many impressive lore content creators, and please let us know your thoughts on the weekly lore roundups. We do both for podcasts and for YouTube. So you can let us know at Focused Fire Chat on Twitter, or you can add us at the Lore Network as well on Twitter. Also, please leave us a review over on iTunes. 5-star reviews really help us, so it allows other people to find us on iTunes. Also, it really makes our day, so I would appreciate that. Thank you.
And a big shout out to Green, who Destiny Lore Audiophile hit a big milestone this weekend, or earlier this week, I think.
A couple days ago. You sent me the, what was it,
10,000?
10,000 downloads. 10,000 downloads for DLA. That's a huge milestone.
So
in less than 6 months. Right?
Congratulations, Green.
Congratulations, the team. It's not just me.
Yeah.
But
not just me.
Still, congratulations.
It's been good. It's been good. I've had a few extra people lately who have hit me up who we've added to the Discord channel that we're doing a lot of the planning, and I've got 3 more books being worked on by various voice actors and fun readers, and we've got some D1 lore coming back. So 2021 is going to be some good Destiny lore audiophile for your ears.
Also, We have an actual sponsor for this episode, guys. If you guys would go to lootcrate.com, you can get 15% off most loot crates and subscriptions. You can put in Robots Radio as a code to get that 15% off. And currently, right now, I'm actually looking at the loot crates, and there's a lot of really cool stuff. There is, you can still get the Destiny crate is still there. It's
and the 15% does apply for the Destiny crate for the
but
the
I'm
quarterly...
looking at this Britney Spears limited edition fashion doll series loot crate.
They have I think they just announced the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one too.
They did. There's a Pixar limited edition series crate. There's a ReZero Crunchyroll crate that I really, really want as well because I'm a huge weeb. So if you want to get your weeb on, there's also a Hogwarts one if you really like Harry Potter. So there's something for everybody. So if you really want to get yourself some really cool stuff to put behind you when you're streaming, or you want to hide from your wife, or you want to show your wife, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, then head over to lootcrate.com and use the 15% off code for Robots Radio.
Yeah, and I will say that I got the first Destiny crate in the mail a little while back, and they had the Tower hoodie that my wife promptly stole from me. And she has not, I don't think she's taken it off yet because it's apparently extremely comfortable. And it's actually really pretty color. Yeah. Like it's got like a really nice blue tone to it. They also had tumblers, whiskey tumblers with the Trostland logo on it. Ooh. So it was actually like, I know Loot Crate's been kind of like a hit or miss like the past couple of years. It's been kind of like, it's a 50-50 chance. Like I've actually been pretty impressed with the limited crates that they've put out. They are more pricey and you don't get them every month, but to me, I think it's kind of that quality that used to be every month back in the day with Loot Crate. So
right. So, but they all look really great right now. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So if you guys want some really cool things, and you just have like a little bit extra with that, that $600 you're getting in the mail if you're American.
You know what?
So
yeah, one of the things I used to do with Loot Crate is I had an after-school gaming class essentially for students who didn't want to do sports, and I would use the leftover Loot Crate stuff that I did not want as prizes for them, and they thought it was awesome.
I mean, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Loot Crate. I've been getting their stuff for so many years now, and it's like they've always had something like, something in one of the crates that has been like, oh, that's really cool. Like even they used to do the whole thing with the crates where you could actually tear apart the box, and I have a Harley hammer, like the hammer from Suicide Squad or Harley Quinn's hammer. They had that Loot Crate. They had an Optimus Prime one like back in the day where you took apart the crate and then like cut it up a little bit, and you could actually make the Optimus Prime truck. So it was really kind of cool. Basic Orchid in chat is the theme right now, I guess.
But Orchid really likes that Britney Spears Loot Crate, guys. That's all that's happening in chat, and everyone's calling me super basic for it. So I'm just defending myself against like poor little like 1998 Orchid over here, who definitely had the blonde pigtails and sang to that all the time in elementary school.
It's okay. So. You're not fired.
Yeah, I keep trying to get fired. You guys keep not firing me.
Chat has agreed to continue your employment with Focus Fire Chat.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your support in 2021 in these difficult times. Your support has allowed me to keep putting food on the table.
Wait, what?
This crepe cake and this bubble tea that I'm eating.
Oh man. All right, so jumping right into it, just some like basic like kind of the cocktail knowledge piece of the intro session. So the Deep Stone Crypt is something that's been around for gosh, 6 years, 7 years. When did Destiny 1 first come out? Because that's basically when it came out. Like, Deep Stone Crypt has been around for...
D1. There was the Titan mark.
So, I mean, it's, you know, I think...
Legends.
Well, and I
Ghost
know,
Fragment
like...
Legends.
Yeah, Ghost Fragment Legends was the huge, was another one. Like, it's been... I mean, we've been speculating about the Deep Stone Crypt for, I mean, yeah, almost as long as we've been playing Destiny. You know, and for the... Do you want to read the Ghost Fragment Legends, Green, that you had pulled up here?
Well, I could read it. I just had an easy summary of it here. So after the collapse, most exos knew the Deep Stone Crypt only as a dream that many of them would experience. Some of them would see they would make it to this tower in peace. Some of them actually had to fight through waves of people that they knew in life before they got to the tower. And it was a tower on a black plane. We used to think that was the reboot setting. That's what I remember us talking about last time, Jay, is that we discussed that that's the defragmentation, that you're getting rid of all those bad thoughts.
Yeah, which has been disproven.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not, I mean, it's like every theory that I have with Destiny. I'm not upset. I have more questions now.
No.
But yeah, like the Tower Dream... Oh my gosh, yeah, sorry. The Tower Dream, like the explanation of the Tower Dream actually brings up more questions. But it also confirms that the Tower Dream is got really nothing to do with the reset or with the Deep Stone Crypt. It was a... You
want to know what I think it is?
Are we already going to jump into that? Let's do it. The
simulation? Yeah, the Exo Challenge simulation. I think that's what they were. Like, those are basically the same memories of that.
So my challenge to that, like, I kind of am in agreement. I think it's along the same lines as the Exo Challenge, but the thing is, I actually kind of tie the tower and the black plane as the long, slow whisper. In a similar vein as the long... I don't know necessarily. I don't think it's the same thing, but I think it's in the same kind of thematic thing. The reason I wouldn't say it was an Exo Challenge is because the Exo Challenges were designed by the Clovis AI. And at the time of the Exos, we have record of the Tower Dream before the Clovis AI was in place. So, and when...
like before everything?
So before in the timeline of everything, like the Exos that we have documented notes from Clovis being upset about dreaming of a tower existed before the Clovis AI, the big Clovis AI head, before that was in place, because that didn't happen until after Clovis had pretty much died, because he uploaded himself into the AI, and then also, well, he never fully completely uploaded himself into Clovis 1. But that was the intent, was he was to have a mobile platform in Clovis 1, and then the basic, or the giant head was kind of like his home fallback point. That's why creation was described as one of the safest places in the system, because that was ultimately the heart of where Clovis was before the whole event of Deep Stone Crypt, before the events that we're going to be talking about with the Deep Stone Crypt raid. The AI was his kind of fallback thing, but that AI is also the one who is responsible for creation and management of the exoscience simulations. So, like,
and training of Elsie, he talks about how he designed those specifically for her, and that she made them through easily enough.
all that didn't happen until later in the exoscience program, but we have early prototype exos talking about the Tower Dream, in not just in the Deep Stone Crypt raid lore, but also the story with Micah, the snippet that they hear between Cade and the unknown other. I'm trying to remember which exo he was talking to. I think it was Win. It was either Win or I think it was Win, but the two of them, when they had that conversation that Micah overhears, they're talking about the tower. they were talking about the tower and about how like the dreams and how they weren't going to tell Micah's father about
Hector.
it because it was Hector was the psychologist, right?
Psychologist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mean the only I think it's in the same vein as the simulation, the Exo Challenge simulations, but I don't think they are the Exo Challenge simulations. I think that Clovis, as most of Wayland Yutani does, he took it and modified it to fit his purpose. That being said, I am interested in like the thoughts about the tower because it does seem like a fragmentation resolution thing. It also is very interesting to me because when we first encounter the darkness, we meet them on a plain of flowers, and there is no tower that I remember from that cutscene, but there is a plain, and so we know with the Alcahest creation process, the darkness is involved in what makes Exos successful. So I'm curious about that as well.
Mm-hmm. So should we go into what we now know about the Deep Stone Crypt?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been very happy with how the Deep Stone. I have not done the raid. I won't do the raid, so don't hold your breath on that. But the way,
wow, I think you should. It's fun.
I know the story, and that's really my only interest in it. Like and I'll get grief for that, but I mean, I haven't raided since
King's Fall.
And that was a horrible experience from a mechanic standpoint, so that
it's
really,
not so bad right now.
No, I've heard wonderful things that it's very nice, but from a mechanic standpoint, I just don't have any interest in it. But from a lore standpoint, like what happens with the Deep Stone Crypt as the raid process, and especially the consequences of that raid process in the game world as a whole, is really, really significant, especially with focus on Europa. Like it explains so much of what's happening on Europa in game currently. So as far as like the actual raid piece, we know the major figures. I know this will trigger some people. Atrax, the wild card, or Atrax 1, kind of to hint at something to come there. Tannix is back, guys. This time he has
such a cockroach. He won't die.
The theories of Tannix that have grown from his involvement with Deep Stone Crypt have been enlightening.
I have a theory.
Very interesting.
Tannix has stock and hostess. Because Twinkies never go bad.
That's a false claim.
I was going to say because he's the sweetest
Twinkies
cupcakes.
go bad. Twinkies go bad 45 days after they've been made. But anyways,
I don't know. I've eaten
Not
ones that
the
are
way
a couple
my
years
grandpa
old and
eats
they're
them.
totally fine.
I never said you can't eat them. I never said you can't eat them. Technically.
I mean,
They're
they're
shelf
edible,
life,
so they're
and-
not bad.
There's so many preservatives in them.
That's like French fries. I mean, you find a French fry 10 years later, you can technically still eat it. I wouldn't advise it, but...
Don't tell me what to do with the food I find under the seat of my car.
If you heat it up, it's still a little... Yeah, anyways, Aramis is also involved in a little bit. And Green, I know you wanted to talk about Aramis's involvement because of the way that the Glassway strike actually is tied into the Deep Stone Crypt.
Yeah, Aramis basically is the reason that we kind of have to go into it, the Deep Stone Crypt in general. Not only because she's the big baddie for the season that we take care of in the first couple of days, but she's also the one who's kind of orchestrating this whole transition that Atrax and Tannix have experienced. The thing that I would like to go over is why Why just the two? Was there only enough exofluid that we got from the Glassway strike for that? Because Taniks...
I would argue that it was our interrupting that is the reason why. Because Atrax, there are multiple copies of Atrax. And I, like, given especially what we learn with the A Hard Rain Falls quest from Exo Stranger, and when we get introduced to the Clovis AI, it really is. I think we just threw a wrench into the machinery, literally and figuratively, that kind of stopped them short. I think that we would have had more Fallen Exos if they had had more time to prep for it. But basically, we hear, oh, hey, they're doing this, and then immediately go there to stop them. Like, there was no like, oh, we're going to give them a month or two while we get ready so that they can get ready so that we can have a big fight. No, it was kind of like, as most Guardians approach things, there's a problem, here's a sledgehammer, let's break it.
Right.
And I think that's the reason I actually really like the theory that Taniks has had access to Deep Stone Crypt technology prior to this reveal of him. It kind of explains some of the things about Taniks. It also opens a lot of interesting debates and questions about that. But I know that's a really popular theory right now. That's why Taniks is even here, is because Taniks actually had been using Deep Stone or the DSC technology.
Taniks has access to Siva too.
Correct.
Or the Siva perfected version, right?
And that's actually the argument for the theory that Taniks had exotech already. The reason why that kind of holds water, I haven't done a full dive into just the theory just yet, but I can see it holding water because it explains how he dies and then comes back repeatedly, and then also if he has exotech already, Siva is another technology from Clovis Bray's warehouse, if you will. So the synchronicity between the two would make a lot of sense.
Just they were in totally different areas, though. Like, Siva was not on Europa.
Correct, and that is Taniks did not have Siva until we discovered Siva. Like, Taniks didn't use the Siva mites until we unleashed it on Mars.
Taniks is an Apple junkie. He's got to have the newest iPhone.
Yeah, I think that is, as funny as that is, I think it's also pretty accurate too. Taniks is I mean, we've known that Taniks is loyal to only himself. The entire I don't know if you guys saw, but they have an entire entry from Taniks that is detailing why he took the contract to free the priest and not Aramis. Because Taniks actually is a compatriot of Aramis from back in the day. And he chose not to free Aramis from the Prison of Elders, but he did free the... who was it? The Archon Priest of House Winter, I think.
Right.
Like, he actually has a note in I think it's the Deep Stone Crypt lore, but it's a letter that's basically him, kind of like the correspondence setting up the contract to free the Archon Priest. And it's like, oh yeah, the only reason he did that was because he got paid. Like, he legitimately is a mercenary. And so Taniks is very much addicted to, or I wouldn't even say addicted to, he's always looking for an opportunity to become stronger, which is where you kind of see him. Yeah. And Black Flag is talking about it too. Like, yeah, he's always been more machine. He's always been on the cutting edge of that splicer. Yeah, that splicer technology.
Mm-hmm. So with Taniks coming back, and then you have Atrax, or 8 track, depending on who you talk to. Then you have Aramis wanting an exobody. Do we know that for certain? Like, was she actually wanting to go exofied?
We don't know that for certain.
I don't think we know that for certain.
I would not. So this is actually something I was replaying. My son started playing Destiny, and so we were replaying the campaign, and it gave me a chance to play on the Titan. It gave me an excuse basically to unlock all the adventures again and replay them. One of the things that keeps being presented to me with Stasis that I find very interesting is that to date, Guardians are still the only non-hive characters who are not bound by death. So like even the Exo Stranger who has stasis abilities, even the Fallen who have stasis abilities, they are still bound to a singular life. Putting aside the Exo's time hopping capabilities for just a second there.
Right.
But like if they die, they die. Like there is no ghost, there is no dark variant of ghosts to bring them back. So the Guardian is actually significantly more powerful in the sense that we have that reset capability, which is where you see things with Atrax and Aramis. I can see Aramis chasing down that exo tech for that exact purpose.
Right,
we know
forever.
Right, we know that stasis can be wielded by exos. We know that stasis can be wielded by people who have not been exposed to enormous quantities of paracausal energy, because it is in its own sense, its own unique sense of paracausal energy. So if you can give yourself an exo frame that is backed up with the ability to, I mean, it's not that you have more power, it's that you have now an escape of
a reset.
If I die, I just have to go back to the checkpoint.
The checkpoint though would be the backed up files.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Correct.
In the Deep Stone Crypt. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't necessarily, unless you backed up constantly, you wouldn't necessarily have all the current memories that you had prior.
Correct. Though, that being said, with the lore that we got about Clovis or Banshee and Elsie, we know that the backups are able to be taken very quickly, as long as they're not back to back to back to back. Once the initial fatal scan has been done, it sounds like the backups are really easy to process, because they were doing backups while they were fighting the Vex when it was Clovis 1 through 43. The backups that they made of themselves were it seemed like they were on the go, like, because they were dying so fast that they were actually burning through memory banks. The processing could not keep up with them, which to me read, you're able to process a lot of that data on the fly. Yes, and Black Flag is calling out, there was a cutscene at the ending of the campaign where Aramis tells Atrax to go prepare the body. Now, we don't know which body which was being referred to. Could be Atrax's exo body, it could be Tanix's exo body, or it could be another exo frame. Like, we don't know that. And then earlier I think Pins was talking about, we also, for regards to why there are not like 50 billion of these Fallen running around, if I remember correctly, the Fallen Exo are larger than humans, and then also, so we don't know how much Alcahest they require. Alcahest is just real quick, Alcahest is the combination of Vex mind fluid that has been exposed to clarity or the darkness. So it does that, and that kind of does.
Vex juice.
Yeah, that ties back into the reason for the Glassway strike. Is the Glassway strike was we actually lost the Glassway strike. Like we won in that we denied the Vex the ability to come through and invade. But Aramis actually won a bigger battle because she collected all the mind fluid at the end when that bowl drains. That is Aramis actually collecting all that radiolarian fluid to be made into more Alkahest for the Exo project. The other thing, real quick on Aramis, that I can see being the reason why she would be very interested in Exo frames is Exos don't require ether.
Correct.
Right.
So
And
you
there's
have
ether
you
shortage.
have yep, and you have Aramis, as with every other leader of the Fallen to this point, has explored a way to break that dependency. Aramis actually has probably one of the most legit ways of doing exactly that. Because
she
if
also destroys her own servitor, like
one of the lesser
Yeah.
servitors, yes, yeah, which is really super sad. Because I went there, I think that was a conversation, Green, you and I had, where I was like, oh no, we gained the name of that servitor just basically to watch it die. We didn't. It was a different servitor that I was seeing, but I was like, but she does in that cutscene talk about how they're shaking off the chains of the ether, and I think that's part and part. She does it while she's wielding stasis, so I think a lot of people, and rightfully so, are connecting that to, oh, well, they're going to replace ether with stasis. The problem is though, even though Aramis and her lieutenants have stasis, if you notice, they still are breathing ether. Like, stasis isn't replacing ether. So I really think that the entire focus of Aramis on the Deep Stone Crypt and the exoscience program is exactly that. She is looking the same way that Clovis was, in a way. She is looking to translate her flesh and blood people into exo bodies, because that will effectively shatter the chains of dependence that the Fallen as a species have on ether. Which, taking that out of the context of Aramis as a megalomaniac, is actually not a bad plan. Like, that actually, it works. You just have to, taking it out of the context is also really difficult, because Aramis is also a megalomaniac, and she has been corrupted by both stasis and the power of being the Kell of the House Salvation.
So what happens after the raid? What has happened to, like, I know we're going to go into the actual raid itself, I think, a little bit more in depth in the advanced session.
Yeah. This is actually...
what do we see outside?
This is actually my favorite, or one of my favorite in-game explanations to the changing terrain that we've had in Destiny. Because basically, there's the infamous scene of, I think it was T-Rex getting to go to space. During the raid, I'm in space. During the raid, what happens is, very briefly, to kind of explain it, we get sent up to an orbital station over Europa, coined Morningstar. Morningstar as an orbital station, I think, Orchid, you were the one that had the question of, like, what is Morningstar?
It was more like, it wasn't what is, it was more like, what's the actual purpose of it?
Okay.
Or like, what was the end goal of Morningstar?
Morningstar was
Really?
literally a
Like
kill
the
switch.
end goal of it. Yeah.
The end goal of Morningstar was literally a kill switch for the entirety of the Europa base. We see that with Clovis Bray in his logbook that we got. He says, if we are endangered by clarity control, it is only through accident or miscommunication or punishment. Punishment is a key part of any teaching process. Still, I am keenly aware that there might be some danger I cannot foresee. It's so humble of him to admit that. So I have ordered an orbital platform constructed over the worksite. If we need catastrophic containment or a quick and thorough redaction of our work here, the platform will excurse from its orbit and collide with the site. Europa's orbital dynamics make even higher polar orbits very unstable, so the platform needs onboard power for course correction. A fission reactor makes sense. It requires less frequent refueling than a fusion plant, and it's easy to hide something in the design that will allow it to achieve extremely prompt criticality. now we can proceed with peace of mind. So basically, Morningstar was meant to serve as a contingency plan for the overall work on Europa. It was a fallback plan to contain anything that comes from the star that they were basically farming, the Vex. They were basically like, hey, if this all goes sideways, we can just nuke the ever living bejesus out of the site. And B, it also was like, hey, if we ever get in trouble with legal ramifications, we'll just redact everything that we did here. And it was an accident.
Blow it up.
It was an accident. It was also connected to the fact that with Clarity, Clovis said specifically that they were not to move Clarity as they did with the K1 artifact, because they tried and nearly 20 people were killed because the artifact lashed out and specifically like eradicated I think it was 19 people. So it actually played nice in his plans, because he's like, okay, well, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't want to go anywhere, so we can build something directly over it. And instead of worrying about making it mobile and being able to track things, we just focus it all, Clarity was basically ground zero for Morningstar's landing, I guess would be the word for it, which is actually part of the entire reason that the raid, or part of the entire purpose of the raid, was the Guardians not just stopping the exofication, if you will, of the Fallen, but also killing the thrusters on Morningstar so that it didn't collide with Europa. Because at the start, that is one of the announcements that you hear in the audio files, is the Clovis AI announcing that the Morningstar will be activated and the destruction will be has been basically confirmed. Like, he's basically calling down Morningstar. So we have to go, that's the reason we go up to the space station, is we have to break all the security locks to then deactivate that process. And that leads into the Hard Rain Falls quest, which is where now we have various sectors of Europa where the fallout from that attempted nuclear collision is literally falling from the sky, because there is so much of Morningstar still up in the air that has been broken apart in orbit. Going back to it, because of that orbital dynamics that Europa has, it's so unstable that pieces are literally falling into the areas. The reason we are being tasked with going to those areas is because the Stranger recognizes that the Fallen are going to continue to take advantage of any tech that falls down and survives that, and we are being called to kind of basically deny them the advantage that anything of value that is still within that wreckage. That's our job, is we're denying them the ability to gain any information from the wreckage of the Morningstar. The other thing that came about as an effect of the raid is that it opened up the area of Europa playspace that's known as Creation. We kind of mentioned that earlier. Creation was arguably one of the safest places in the entire system. The reason being is that is where Clovis housed the central component of the big exo head. That's the Clovis AI. That's where he is housed, is in Creation. So he basically built a fortress around that. However, following the destruction that we caused on the Morningstar, the majority of the defenses of the Deep Stone Crypt and of Creation were negated. And so this is actually why we are able to just walk there. So we actually were given the opportunity, following the defeat of Tanix, to make our way to that AI hub, and also unlock all the secret unlockables in the area, like the exo frame, and I believe there is an augment quest that's in the Creation area as well.
I have not done the augment quest, so those are... You're the one
Yeah,
I'm sure he's been working on them.
Yeah, they're not. To be honest, there's nothing lore-wise really on, like, it unlocks lore entries, but there is no in-game, like, we hack into terminals that are hackable, but that's like there's no in-game dialogue with the augment quest. Yeah, and then yes, the Black Flag is pointing out Morning Star is the naming convention there is a reference to Lucifer, the fallen angel. There is also a really interesting little tidbit. There's a legendary weapon that you get from the completion of the Hard Rain quest, the High Albedo. It is actually an albedo is a term that means the proportion of the incident light or radiation that is reflected by a surface, typically that of a planet or moon. So really, when you say high albedo, what it is that is one way to say that something has a high reflective surface or nature, especially when you're talking about planets, satellites, and asteroids. So because Europa is mostly ice, it actually is very reflective. And the idea of the increased radiation exposure that Morningstar would have created, there was a debate on Reddit, Destiny Lore, I think, talking about the fallout effect of, like, if Morningstar had actually done what it was supposed to, like, would it have destroyed Europa? Would it have cracked the moon? And there was a couple of the posters were pointing out that, probably not, but with all the radiation that we theoretically would have due to, like, the fission reactor and stuff like that, it would eradicate everything at ground zero, basically, which would be Clarity. And then it would invalidate light, or it would destroy, air quote, the rest of the moon because of the radiation fallout. Like, it would, yes, I understand that is a very understandable thing to hear when I say that. You're not wrong, Green. You're not wrong.
High albedo. Albedo.
Yeah.
Albedo.
But yeah, so, like, the effect, like, I really like how with this raid, like, we kind of saw glimmers of this with, like, Garden of Salvation, and with what was the other one? The Dreaming City. Like, we kind of saw how that
Last Wish.
Yeah, Last Wish. How, like, they kind of unlocked stuff, but, like, this, I want to say this has been the biggest one that has actually changed the playscape that we experience in Destiny as an overall overarching community. Like, with Garden of Salvation, there were community aspects to it, but this is actually one of the times that we actually see something that is done in the raid literally change something irreversibly in the game world. So I think that was, I want to say that's to me, that's really cool. I'm not sure if everyone agrees with that, but, it is very interesting to see how, even as Guardians, we circumvented the purpose of the Morning Star, and then also created a new event in a way. I'm also interested in your guys' thoughts as to why, with the afflicted areas, we have stasis regen increased. I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
I don't.
I mean, I have a thought, but I'm letting someone else talk because,
Well,
I mean, I could go for hours on this.
I mean, if the Morning Star, I mean, you have the impacts, right? Like, that's the whole debris falling down. But why would the space station have stasis? Any effect on stasis? I don't know. I legit don't have any clue. Orchid?
I don't. I have no idea. honestly.
So my thought on that, just my 2 cents. We have documents that show pretty severe experimentation that was done on exos on the Morningstar, which would, to me, imply that we have potentially very large quantities of stasis, or at least
Alkahest.
Well, I don't think we had Alkahest because, well, we might have Alkahest. I don't know. I don't know about Alkahest technically because Alkahest, the last of it, was used to create Banshee, and then when they recreated it, I'm trying to remember where exactly Atrax was created. I want to say Atrax was actually created on the surface of Europa. But stasis itself, Clovis had access to stasis. He didn't use it himself, but there's a line from the Exo Stranger that basically during the Beyond Light quest,
she talks about how he was experimenting with stasis.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we go after the journal pieces.
Right. Yeah. He basically had fragments of stasis imbued technology that he was experimenting with. We also, with the Drifter, that's where we get the stasis heavy weapon that I just blanked on the name of. Salvation's Grip, I think. Because
the grenade launcher, that's not a grenade launcher.
Yeah, anyways, the only thing I used it for was the breaking of the shards, and then I just basically sharded it. But like the entire creation process of that weapon was touching on using fallen technology, like fallen experiments, and then like in stasis. So we basically backdoored a lot of what Praxis was doing. Now, Salvation's Grip we were able to unlock prior to the raid. So that was not a prerequisite to getting Salvation's Grip. But I think that because we know that he was experimenting, Clovis was experimenting with other scientists on Morningstar specifically with different things, I think that's where there's increased, if you will, it's not radiation, but basically material in the air, if you would, that is drifting down in addition to the actual physical pieces of the station.
I don't know if we have any real support of that being part of it, though.
Oh, Veru is saying that it might have something to do with observes characteristics of Europa's magnetosphere, because there's a mention in the Vanguard letter of the Collector's Edition as well as early Clovis Journal, and the debris is maybe triggering something that is like... To me, the question is the confusion that I have there is that stasis is arguably a paracausal capability. So why is manipulating a physical component of the area specifically increasing the regen speed of our own ability to conjure stasis, which is a very confusing sentence. I mean, game-wise, I know why. It's to encourage people to play in the area because your abilities regenerate faster. But that's one of the questions I did have about the consequences of the station. Is this introduction of increased stasis regeneration in those areas? And it's very specifically called out, like on your screen. It's a buff that you get while you're in that area.
I don't know if I can't think of anything that they've actually suggested that is a result of it, besides just game mechanic. Like, there's nothing I'm recalling from any of the readings that would suggest that this would happen.
Right. But
I don't. I'm trying to find something. Like, I'm looking through lore and I can't find anything that would suggest it either.
Yeah, and like I said, the only thing that I can tell is different is that there are literally pieces of Morningstar falling. So I'm like, in the same way that like radioactive fallout would cloud the air that is, around the explosion area. I'm like, well, maybe it's residual stasis energy from the morning star, but that ties a physical component to something that is inherently not necessarily 100% physical. And so to me, it doesn't, that particular thing doesn't make sense. But that might be the kind of the throwaway being like, oh, well, it's just because it's residual energy from the debris that's falling from the morning star station because they were doing crazy experiments. And I'm like, all right, it doesn't have to make 100% sense necessarily, but
yeah, I don't know. It's something that I don't think they've addressed, just like they haven't addressed Elsie's fish.
I'm sure they will eventually. Just not yet.
I just want to know.
Have to be patient.
I just want to have an answer to why exos have a number carved in their flesh and how it gets updated.
They just get a new body.
Gee.
Wouldn't they, though? Wouldn't they get a new body?
Not necessarily.
I think
you
they
can
would.
You can get reset and still have the same body. It's happened. That's what Lakshmi's trying to explore. It's the spontaneous resets.
Right, but there's not very many instances of that happening. The vast majority of them have had new chassis, so to speak, to work with. Clovis is one of them.
And I understand that, and I don't have a problem with that. But in the Dark Age, when an exo would get reset, like Cade, where did Cade get, like, did he get updated with it? Because their software is specifically called out that it updates their own software. Like, their software updates it so that they refer to themselves with their new designation. But there is a literal physical indication of the number that is carved on their chassis. We've had multiple references. This is like one of the like nitty-gritty points that I'm like, give me an answer.
Maybe they're just like tally marks, so they just like put another mark in, and then at
they're
5 it's just like
they
a diagonal
the sleepwalking, and they just like.
No, it's just the person who resets, and they just put another one, and it's just.
But see, but what about Banshee? Like, that's a lot of tally marks on Banshee's chassis. Where is he hiding all those?
He's got a lot of scratch marks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking metal chiggers.
Oh, Sevamites.
Sevamites gets under the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no! All right. As you can tell, that's my conclusion of what happens after the Deep Stone Crypt.
Jeez.
Vince.
Exo tattoos.
I
think. Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
You want to wrap up this session?
Yes, I would say this is a good place to wrap up the intro session, and then with the advanced session, we can dive into the stages. I will rely on you and Orchid for that mechanical component, and then talk a little bit more about, was it 8 tracks you referred to her as?
Oh yeah, 8 tracks. Mm-hmm.
8 tracks.
8 tracks tapes.
8 tracks in the Cockroach. God, that's a good band name right there.
8 tracks in the Cockroach.
Oh man. So yeah, final thoughts. I'm really happy with it from a lore perspective. The raid, I think, satisfied a lot of the questions, but did it in a way where, as with most Bungie stuff, it created more questions. They're like, here's the answer that's actually another question to the Deep Stone Crypt. So I'm pretty happy with how they did it.
Green. I think there's still too many things to answer.
Well,
and
fair, right.
It's frustrating, but I mean, I'm always going to think there's too many things left to answer. Like, Why can we go up to the scary statue lady who's breathing in your face and not go mad? Like, that's a question worth exploring.
I think, honestly, it might be because we don't spend very much time around her, and they spend a lot of time around her.
Or we're already mad.
I don't know. I spent a lot of time standing on top of her, looking down her. Nothing.
Looking down her, nothing?
No.
Okay.
Gazing down her mountainous chest.
With respect.
With respect.
Respectfully.
Respect.
Green, shoutouts.
Shout out to... I have no idea. Shout out to the world not burning yet. Good job, world.
God.
We're kidding. We're getting
so
somewhere. I mean, right now. I mean, the recording of this episode is January 8th, right? Like, the world is kind of crazy. 2020 was crazy. 2021 is proving to be crazier. The world is not falling apart yet. Hold on. Find your happy place. Find your anti-anxiety happiness in whatever way, shape, or form you can, because it's just nutty out there. And I dropped my pen. I'm sorry, podcast.
Orchid, what about
Orchid?
you?
I don't know. Shout out to everyone who already has the raid title. All you sweats. Good job. Sweaty raid people.
They're all on PC, right?
There are probably no. There's plenty of people who have it on
Trigger.
Xbox. You're just referring back to previous inflammatory statements from last September. Are you trying to get me in trouble, Blue?
Yes, that's one of my requirements. One of the best things that I saw today was someone posted that they want to return the 2021 purchase. They tried the 7-day trial period and want a refund.
No, there's no refunds. I'm sorry. I tried.
Chat's
This
talking
is a
about
forced
how
DLC.
2021 is a forced DLC.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, shout out to everyone who in all the insanity that is going on right now, patience, kindness is even more critical at this point. Guess what? Even if you don't agree with people, treat them like they're still a human being. Treat them as such. That I think can be applied universally to any situation that we have. It's something that I've seen a lot of people posting about, and I agree 100% with it. It's we don't have to agree on everything, but we do have to treat everybody with the golden rule is to treat people the way you want to be treated. I mean, it's really easy. But that being said, I wanted to, as always, thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.